Hi, welcome back to Mrs. Cinnamon. I'm really glad to be able to read to you again. I recently got a new book. It's called Mama Provi and the Pot of Rice. This is a book that I found at the library back when my children were really little, and it's my oldest daughter's favorite book. One of her favorite memories of me reading to her was reading this book together, so I'd like to share it with you now. Mama Provi and the Pot of Rice. Sorry, it's backwards. Mama Provi lived on the first floor of a tall apartment building. Her granddaughter Lucy, who was 6 years old, lived with her parents on the 8th floor of the very same building. Twice a month, Lucy spent the night at Mama Provi's. They played games and listened to old, scratchy records. At bedtime, Lucy always begged Mama Provi for a story. Mama Provi wove marvelous tales about when she was a little girl growing up in Puerto Rico with her 5 brothers and 4 sisters. Lucy fell asleep to stories filled with palm trees, sweet mangoes, and tiny tree frogs called coquis. In the morning, Lucy helped Mama Provi cook breakfast. It was always a tremendous feast because Mama Provi didn't know how to cook for only 2 people. In her big family, she had been taught to cook for 12 people at one time. One Saturday, Lucy's mama called to say that Lucy had the chicken pox and would not be able to visit that evening. Lucy was very sad. Mama Provi wondered what she could do to cheer her up. Before long, Mama Provi had a wonderful idea. Lucy always said that Mama Provi made the best rice with chicken in the whole world, and so Mama Provi took out her largest pot and set out to make the most delicious arroz con pollo ever. When the rice had cooled just enough, Mama Provi packed the pot in an enormous shopping bag. She locked her door and started up the stairs to the 8th floor. Mama Provi never ever rode the elevator. The pot of rice was heavy, and it was not long before Mama Provi had to stop to catch her breath. She was resting on the 2nd floor landing when a wondrous smell tickled her nose. She recognized the aroma instantly, and without giving it another thought, knocked briskly on apartment 2B. Mrs. Landers opened the door. "Excuse me for bothering you, Mrs. Landers, but is that your crusty white bread that I smell?" Mama Provi asked. Mrs. Landers said it was. "I wonder if you would trade a bit of your bread for a bowl of my arroz con pollo. I am taking this rice to Lucy, who is sick with the chicken pox, and a piece of your bread would go so well with it." Mrs. Landers was only too pleased to make the trade, for she also loved Mama Provi's arroz con pollo, and un dos por tres, which in Spanish means something like lickety-split. Mrs. Landers wrapped up a large chunk of her freshly baked bread and exchanged it for a bowl of Mama Provi's rice. After thanking Mrs. Landers, Mama Provi continued up the stairs, carrying the pot of rice and the chunk of bread. Looks like we have a little glare on the camera. Let's see if I can fix it. There we go. Mama Provi had not gone very far when she again stopped to catch her breath, this time on the 3rd floor. Again, a delightful smell tickled her nose. She recognized the aroma instantly and, without giving it another thought, knocked briskly on apartment 3E. Signor Rivera answered the door. "Excuse me for bothering you, Signor Rivera, but are those your frijoles negros that I smell?" Mama Provi asked. Signor Rivera said they were. "I wonder if you would trade a bit of your black beans for a bowl of the arroz con pollo I have in this pot. I am taking this rice to Lucy, who is sick with the chicken pox, and your beans would go so well with this rice." Signor Rivera was only too pleased to make the trade. En un dos por tres, he poured a generous helping of his beans into a container and exchanged it for a bowl of Mama Provi's rice. When Mama Provi reached the 4th floor, she was surprised to find Mrs. Bazzini from apartment 4G waiting for her. "Mrs. Landers called to tell me that you have a large pot of arroz con pollo that you are taking to Lucy," said Mrs. Bazzini. "I was wondering if you would trade a bowl for some of my fresh green salad." Mama Provi agreed immediately. A nice tossed salad would indeed go very well with her arroz con pollo. So, en un dos por tres, Mrs. Bazzini exchanged a bowl of salad for a bowl of Mama Provi's rice. After thanking Mrs. Bazzini, Mama Provi continued up the stairs carrying the pot of rice, the chunk of bread, the container of black beans, and the bowl of salad. Having given away so much of her rice, Mama Provi was amazed that her shopping bag was still so heavy. She was resting on the 5th floor when a heavenly smell tickled her nose. She recognized the aroma instantly and knocked briskly on apartment 5A. Mrs. Johnson opened the door. "Excuse me for bothering you, Mrs. Johnson, but are those your collard greens that I smell?" Mama Provi asked. Mrs. Johnson said they were. "I wonder if you would trade a bit of those greens for a bowl of the arroz con pollo I have in this pot. I'm taking this rice to Lucy, who is sick with the chicken pox, and your collard greens would go so well with this rice." En un dos por tres, Mrs. Johnson wrapped up a generous portion of her collard greens and exchanged it for a bowl of Mama Provi's rice. When Mama Provi reached the 6th floor, she bumped straight into Mrs. Wu. "Mrs. Bazzini called to say that Lucy is ill with the chicken pox," said Mrs. Wu. "Please, take this tea to her. I hope it will make her feel better." Mama Provi asked Mrs. Wu if she would like a bowl of arroz con pollo, but Mrs. Wu said she would wait until the next time Mama Provi made her tasty rice. After thanking Mrs. Wu, Mama Provi continued up the stairs carrying the pot of rice, the chunk of bread, the container of black beans, the bowl of salad, and the generous portion of collard greens, and the pot of tea. On the 7th floor, Mama Provi stopped to rearrange her shopping bag. Another enchanting smell tickled her nose. She recognized it instantly and knocked briskly on apartment 7C. Mrs. Kelly answered the door. "Excuse me for bothering you, Mrs. Kelly, but is that your apple pie that I smell?" Mama Provi asked. Mrs. Kelly said it was. "I wonder if you would trade a sliver of your delicious pie for a bowl of the arroz con pollo I have in this pot. I'm taking this rice to Lucy, who is sick with the chicken pox, and your apple pie would make such a nice dessert." Mrs. Kelly was only too pleased to make the trade, and she exchanged a healthy slice of her apple pie for a bowl of Mama Provi's rice. Although Mama Provi had given away quite a bit of her arroz con pollo, her shopping bag was still very heavy. She had finally reached the 8th floor and had stopped to catch her breath when a delicious, heavenly, enchanting, wondrous, delightful odor tickled her nose. It was her arroz con pollo, Mrs. Lander's freshly baked bread, Signor Rivera's black beans, Mrs. Bazzini's green salad, Mrs. Johnson's collard greens, Mrs. Wu's tea, and Mrs. Kelly's apple pie. Without giving it another thought, she knocked briskly on apartment 8F. Lucy answered the door. She was covered with spots. "Excuse me for bothering you, but are you the little girl who is sick with the chicken pox and cannot come to visit her grandmother?" Lucy said she was, and then hugged Mama Provi as hard as she could. Mama Provi pointed to the enormous shopping bag. Together they carried it into the apartment, and en un dos por tres, they set up a tremendous feast. "Let's eat," said Mama Provi, and that's exactly what they did. And that was Mama Provi and the Pot of Rice. Thank you so much for listening to the story. Thank you for visiting me with me again, and I look forward to the next time when we read together. Hey, there's that sunbeam again. There we go.